We're on.
Wino Park, Tuesday evening, and what a cracking card it is at Warwick Farm tomorrow, Gord. Rail out 5 metres. You want to be there, really, or you just want to be there?
Well, you want to find some winners, I think. I think that's all we can say about the program, yeah?
Yeah, look, unfortunately, we've got a full book Warwick Farm tomorrow, Wyong Thursday, Canterbury with 8 races on Friday, and then right through to Kembla on Sunday. So when we see a program like that, it tends to hollow out the fields, and tomorrow seems to have suffered somewhat. Also, it's a back up for Warwick Farm, so you tend to get your best fields when you've got them fortnights apart. So Warwick Farm being 7 days later means that you've got a few of them to go around in the staying race, but other than that, not much of a fill from last week at Warwick Farm.
6 going around in the staying race is a solid field these days, is it? Or?
Well, 4 of them backing up from last Wednesday.
Yeah.
Look, as I say, rail out 5 metres, which is the... I don't know, it was certainly up there last week. It was a bit, on pace, favoured. Rail out 5 metres tomorrow, track remains pretty dry. They can't really get enough water onto it to alter the fact that in the van is the place to be tomorrow.
I'm just watching the dog over there saying hello to everybody, but yeah. Anyway, so what are you saying, off the fence in the straight still, but no, you can be on the fence?
Yeah. So just get there and stay there. Look, the best situation on this track is to be a leader drawn out wide. It's like take charge, have them running, and that'll suit you. Race 1 is a 2-year-old race. We didn't have a 2-year-old race at Rosehill last Saturday, so we've got it at Warwick Farm tomorrow. Over the short course, 1,000 metres, it's just for fillies. And $3.30 is Goldfinch, $3.30 Al Manzora, $7 is Jessamine, $7 Memento, $7 Should Have Been, $12 Magic Feng, and Long Oz the other 2. Now, obviously, most of them are unraced. Las Vegas did run in a 900 metre race at Kembla 11 days ago and comes home. She's got a little bit of pace, but I imagine that the gay runner Jessamine is urged to be on speed here. Should Have Been looks to have some speed. Certainly Goldfinch has enough toe to be there, and Al Manzora won't give up her inside gate. I've had a look at these, you've had a look at these.
And I'm just wondering if this is just purely stable and jockey that's determining this price, isn't it?
Well, okay, so did you actually look at the trial before you saw the price?
Yes.
And what were you thinking?
I was thinking that...
We're talking about number 1 here.
And number 3, obviously, Goldfinch.
Yeah, well, that's
came out of the same trial. Like 3 had to be favourite. I mean, I know 1 was stylish. It was just sort of in there, sort of doing nothing, just poking around. So I mean, and that's a no shades trial. So I'd expect more improvement from 1 than I would from 3. But 3 has had the 2 trials over 800 metres and did beat it by 5.8 lengths.
It was freaking devastating.
I know. And because of that scenario, I think that means we're getting a decent price this horse. Yes.
Look, fillies at home, they can look good in their trials. They don't necessarily have the scope that you would like to think a horse trialling does have. But wow, at her second trial, she was lethal, and you expect her to be there. She's going to jump and be there. The gay runners are going to be on her outside, maybe pressing, and maybe she hands up. But look, it's hard.
Well, it's Dean Panya, so I hardly think she's handing up, will she? No.
Hard not to like. There's a few other horses in the betting here. Jessamine, what did you make of her trial at Randwick?
All the other horses in this race, I had a thorough look at this race because I was struggling to put my finger on which one I was going to find on top, which obviously I found number 3 on top, Goldfinch. All the others, there was something negative about their trial. Either they had to try too hard, so it didn't look like they had too much upside, or they came out of poor time. So, what are you saying about that?
Well, so in relation to Goldfinch, what did you make of her first trial?
I thought it was fine.
Okay, so it was like just
dum-de-dum-de, and it's had the 2 trials. Which
because
is a
of course we had
well.
Ridabelle and Las Vegas. They're both the roughies in this race. Finished alongside her in the first trial.
Yeah, she's just got a massive advantage for having the extra trial, and it wasn't particularly aggressive. and she springboarded off that as well. So
Yeah, it wasn't like she bounced and found the bunny, did she? It was like she jumped, she was restrained, and then she just cruised around them.
yeah,
Hard not to like, despite the sort of negative connections. And look, I think that Jessamine has got a bit of scope. Memento, I think the price assessors have been very circumspect there, and should have been, did a good job at Gosford, but in very, very, very slow figures.
look, one thing about Memento is, I mean, they're quite dangerous with those short trials at stable, aren't they? So
Yeah, but I mean, she was on her second trial.
but the only horse that's actually done anything is 3.
That's race 1. Race 2 is Gordo's race of the day. It's 2,200 metres. It's a field of 6. Chris Waller's only got 4 of them, and it's $3.30 Brassy Bell, his favourite. $3.50 Estic Raj, $4.40 Prince Morpheus, $6 Ground Allowance, $9 Schooner, and $18 Mysticism. And the favourite looks to take it up here, Brassy Bell, after sitting outside lead last week. Bowman retains the ride. Estic Raj raced handy and finally gets to 2,200 off a sequence of 1,900 metre runs at Canterbury. Ground Allowance perhaps holds his inside draw, and the other 3 race off the speed. Do you have anything to say here?
You tell me which one to back.
Because interestingly, Prince Morpheus and Brassy Bell both went around at Hawkesbury. Brassy Bell was coming off her maiden win at Gosford, and there was a bit of a space between them. Prince Morpheus, with Glenn Schofield on board that day, was, had Brassy Bell well and truly covered.
Okay.
And then we've got a line through Prince Morpheus where Estic Raj obviously started half his price at Canterbury, beat him home. Look, I think Prince Morpheus is right in this race. Estic Raj is not a horse that I have a great deal of time for, but he seems to be in his right race tomorrow for Gun. Brassy Bell retains her opportunity by virtue of the fact that she's up and running. She's on the 7-day backup. She's at Warwick Farm again, and she leads, but she actually did nothing last week. She just, plugged home because she was there. Ground Allowance is a 9-year-old that Rick Worthington has had for the last 3 runs. Schooner wasn't suited last week, but
I think it's an overrated horse, isn't it?
Who, Schooner?
Well, not overrated. I mean, like.
Well, they're all overrated.
It should be in the bush. I mean, there's one thing that's quite topical there, and that is number 1 is Glenn Schofield off the Karen McAvoy on, which is quite topical as far as our rating to wins studies are concerned.
The burning question, yeah. Yes, look, I'm looking towards the top 2 simply because what you see is what you get with Brassy Bell. She did, she just followed the leader home last week, and whilst she gets her chance, she doesn't bring anything to this race that's special, and she's been marked otherwise. That's race 2. Race 3 is an interesting 1,200 metre race for 3-year-old fillies. $3.30 could have been, $5.50 7th Chic, $5.50 the Cricketer's Horse Never Out, $6.50 Foxy Housewife, $8.50 Sugar Palmer, $8 Lucienne, and $10 The Moon Dream. The Roughie is Repentant. Now, the question for this race is Never Out allowed to find the front, or does Could Have Been use her superior speed to actually hold the lead? Other than that, Lucienne is in gate 1, but she's back in distance. 7th Chic is an off-pacer, and Her Moon Dream is a country horse. So there's 2 contestants for the lead, and it actually is a key to the race whether Could Have Been leads and Never Out applies some pressure, or Never Out gets to the front and Could Have Been sits on her.
Found number 2 could have been on top here. The only sort of slight query I had about it was that when you line up 1 and 2 around Treviso, which there is actually some common form, I think what is it, 7th Chick?
Yeah.
7th Chick was sort of like, I know it was first up over 1,000 metres when it went against Treviso, but it was actually a good run on that occasion. But the trials were nothing for me to get carried away, but yet again it's at Chris Waller stable. Could Have Been is a horse that I think has sort of probably Saturday class ability. I love the trial.
Her 3 city runs are all on Saturdays.
And when she's flopped, I think there's been excuses. It was either last run in a prep or on a heavy track or something like that. So I've got, and that trial at Gosford was quite stylish, and she actually, she actually beat some fairly decent horses under a tight hold. I love the fact that T. Clark went to Gosford to ride her in the trial, rides her on this occasion. He's in form. I'm pretty keen.
Any dangers?
1 and 3, which are 7th Chick and Sugar Palmer.
So what's the appeal about Sugar Palmer? You've mentioned 7th Chick.
I just that stable just seems to be a bit sneaky to me, and I didn't mind that trial because it was against the high standard horses. So it was against Snoopy, etc. It got comfortably beaten, but I like it when horses run against serious opposition and at least compete. I think that's a good springboard when you're going back to a lower class situation. But I've mentioned 7th Chick because I've got the common form lines with Teresa.
Yeah, and she's legitimate. She's definitely like she's won in town. She started with could have been at her most recent run at Canterbury. Could have been started marginally shorter with Kathy O'Hara on board that day. Look, Lucienne has broken through at Beaumont in some pretty tawdry races, or tedious races actually, but you know, is just going to poke along here, and she perhaps wasn't suited by having to try and find a run in a slowly run race. Never out. I must say, did a good job on winning.
Yeah.
On debut. Yeah. I mean, but you know, if Could Have Been can put her to the sword. Like if Could Have Been drives through and leads, never out on her outside. It's curtains for never out.
Yeah, like map orientated. Yeah, totally understand that. You've got to be going with those that had a crack at the top opposition last preparation, don't you? Like,
yeah, but
I suggest that's the angle to take in this race.
She did get poleaxed.
And I have to ask your opinion because I thought I was going to find her, and then when I went into it with more detail, I penned her, Foxy Housewife. So you got
she's lacking form. $6.50 seems a very circumspect assessment.
There is a chance that could run round quite a short price favourite, I'd suggest. And what is it? Second favourite at the moment, or favourite?
No, it's favourite. $3.30. No, it's pronounced favourite. There's no challenges. It's $5.50 bar. That's the third. Interesting race. Race 4 is a maiden over 1,400 metres. $2.80 flow, $5 axiomatic, $5 the stablemate egg tart, and then we're into $11 collage, $13 Himalaya flyer, $13 Prometheus, $13 Victime L'Amour, and long odds the others. I imagine that Himalaya flyer is persuaded. Sort of sat outside lead in 1100 and it was very dour, but up to 1400 here it should be able to find the front. Victime L'Amour is fresh and we'll go with him. Axiomatic works forward into a handy position, and Best of Pluck not too far away on the inside, but not a lot doing here in terms of speed. And Gord, this favourite, he's the only horse that's had his last start in town, or the only horse in the race to have had their last start in town, but he's looking a bit one-dimensional here.
Well, what price did you say he was?
$2.80.
You know when you first have a glance at a field and you go, I'm going to find that, like I did previous race. I just watched that run, and I've heard some people comment to me that, you know, there was nothing wrong with it because it jumped. This is flow I'm talking about. It jumped well and then got dragged back, but it just showed nothing. Like, why is it so
What about
short?
the fact that it can jump well and maybe, I mean, because, you know, the speed scenario I've painted is a bit, it's provincial, it's a bit scuzzy. You know, does this horse have the talent to actually go on with it, jump well, and actually go, oh, well, you know what, I'm against Nuffies
Well,
here.
I mean, I don't know who's doing the maps for the O'Shea stable, but I mean, you'd have to recommend Tim Clark to be positive, yeah, particularly if they obviously the opinion of this horse is it's clearly better than the other horses in the race. I'm actually going to be gambling against that.
So where are we heading?
So I'm going bush form. I'm going Victor de l'Amour. If you notice, I think Mark had an article recently about hot form races or something like that, Mark. This race at Kembla is just one of the hottest form races going round. I know it ended up getting beaten by Woomera at Port Macquarie, who's since come out and flopped, but I don't think it was ideally suited being first up over 1,400 metres and then going to the 1,200 metres. It's back to the 1,400 now. this
But
stable.
doesn't Tim Martin drive you mad?
Well-
Like, it's always, you know, there's nothing regulation ever about his horses. It's
But
like,
that's why I'm interested in him over $8. And
Fair
what did
enough,
you say?
yeah.
$13.
$13.
Something like that. Now, I was going to ask you as well. I mean, Ichikawa to Chad Lever. Like where are we putting Chad Lever these days? A few years ago, I would have said massive positive jockey change. But what are we saying now?
well, marginally better.
Marginally.
Like, I'm not looking at it in terms of a. I suppose when I look at positive jockey changes, I've got a group of jockeys that offer positive jockey changes. I'm not making distinctions between this journeyman jockey and that journeyman jockey.
Yeah. It
It's
becomes
like
a bit more subtle then.
there's an
doesn't it?
elite level, and a positive jockey change is a non-elite to an elite rider.
Because I'm saying if it was somebody other than Chad Lever, like one of the big boys, was actually put on this thing, it would have opened at the same price, and it had already would have halved its quote by now. But look, that's on suspicion, that's at odds, that's at value, because there are some question marks about the one who I admit can still win. And Axiomatic, I thought that if I was going to cross-reference the form to the first race, isn't it? Or sorry, what was the other race?
Lucien,
Yeah, Lucien. Yeah. So if I was going to be sort of like not with Lucien, then I was going to have to not be with Axiomatic as well.
Well, the times were terrible. She raced handy and sat deep. It doesn't say she's necessarily got much speed. And she boxed on nicely. Look, it was a nice debut, but straight to town with H. Bowman. You're taking rock bottom here. Collage has the Warwick Farm 1400 metre run, but found an unsympathetic race at Beaumont 10 days ago.
Look, the form lines are fine. I've just got a suspicion that this is a horse that, like a pack horse, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
We'll stay close against decent opposition, but sort of won't blow away in lower standard, which is this particular
It was interesting
race.
how vulnerable she was going back in grade.
I've got to give a mention to number 10 here as well. I'm just keen on trying to find this stable all the time, James Cummings. He's done my favourite thing by giving it 2 trials, last over 1,045 metre trial. I think that was a very good trial. So I'm completely ignoring all 4 starts as first preparation, which were rubbish, and thinking this horse might have improved. And I think it's probably 100 to 1 or something, isn't it, Mark?
It's only $34 because everyone else, like you, Gord, is onto this stable. You were keen on Himalaya Flyer at Gosford. Have you sacked him completely?
Yeah.
He did look particularly ordinary there.
I don't know whether that's me being old school, because remember in the old days, gay horses, you just didn't forgive. I know there's some memorable occasions, in particular big races, but I don't know whether that's changed now, and I can ignore the first up run because she seems to be being a bit more subtle these days. But
so
not
what about
for
the fact that it trialled well? We're talking about horses that. Okay, here's the run. Oh god, that doesn't look any good. But the trial.
How many winners have come like that, haven't they? They've done the great trial, then they've done all right first up, but not fantastic, and then what do they do next up? They win. There's been multiple occasions over
Sorry,
the last...
will you be on it or not? No, you're saying no.
No.
No, right.
Because
You're sticking solid.
No, I'm having a throw at the stump at something at what, $13 and something at 100. Or
Yeah, but Himalaya Fly is
so.
$13.
Yeah.
No, okay. All right, that's the end of part 1. It's a fairly juicy maiden because we've got a juxtaposition there that is delicious in discussion.
Oh. Geez, RacingRant Park does it again. Look at that.
Indeed. So we'll be back shortly with the last 3 from Warwick Farm, which I can assure you aren't going to get anyone's juices necessarily.
Oh, I'm getting excited. Last race.